Very good evening, everyone. So let's begin with our presentation session. Those who wants to give presentation, please raise your hands. We will go in that sequence only. So first we have Sridevi. So Sridevi, you can start with your presentation.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, your screen is visible.
I actually have two presentations to complete, ma'am. So I'll start my first one now.
Okay.
Okay. Good day, everyone. So my task was to plot candlestick pattern in Python using a dataset which is given. So the dataset which is given here is the Bank of Baroda dataset, which is basically a stock market dataset. That is, the open and close values of Bank of Baroda stock is given, and I have to use this specific dataset in order to plot in view the candlestick pattern using Python language. So this is my task. Let's get into the presentation. So this is the overview of the data set which was given. So this is basically a CSV file, that is a data set in which there are these columns, these specific columns. So the first column is the index column. So yeah, these values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the index values which are basically used to retrieve one specific record uniquely. So the next one is the data column, date column. That is, this specific column contains the date in which that record was created. That is the date in which that specific pattern was found in that specific stock. So this is the open value and this is a close value. So in this specific date, the open value of Bank of Baroda stock for one stock is 173.55 and the closing value is 174.35. So these are the open and close values. That is, as we all know, in stock market, there's a specific time in which the market opens and the market closes. So when the market opened at this date, this specific date, the open value of Bank of Baroda is observed in this column, and the closing value is given in this column, and the highest value which was recorded in that specific date is given in this column, and the lowest value which was seen is given in this column. So in the I hope the data set is visible. So the last one contains the volume, that is the amount of stock which was bought on that specific date. So yeah, before getting started, that is before plotting a candlestick pattern, we have to first read the data set, and then we have to process the data set before plotting it as a graph. So as a first step, you have to read the data set, that is a CSV file, into a data frame and convert it into a CSV file. So for reading the CSV file, we have read_CSV of function, which is found in pandas library, which is a library which is supported by Python. So we are basically coding using the programming language Python here in order to plot this graph. So here I've imported pandas and NumPy library for pre-processing the data set. So, and also the plotly is again a library which is supported by Python, which is basically used to provide many functions and methods, which in turn help us visualize data more professionally. So here we are reading the data using the read_CSV of method, and I have mentioned the path in which my data set is saved. So let's now have a quick introduction to what this candlestick pattern in Python is all about. So this is a basic representation of a candle, wherein in a basic candlestick, the highest value and the lowest value is recorded, and it is given in the top points. That is, this point is given as the highest value, and this point is given as the lowest value regarding the color of the candlestick. And as we can see, there are two colors we can observe, the green one and the red one. The green one indicates that the open value is lesser and the closing value is more greater. That is the initial stage at which the market opens. The value of that stock is is little lesser, and when the market closes, the value of that stock increases. So in which we can conclude that there is profit for that specific stock, or the people who have bought that stock. So we have indicated that profit in green color, and this red color basically represents the down in the stock market. So as you can see, the open value is higher and the closing value is lower. This line is basically observed in ascending order, that is from here till here it increases, the value of the stock increases, and this specific lower notes represent the low values in that specific date, and these top values are the high values of that specific date. So this is how candlestick pattern is basically plotted or interpreted. So before plotting the graph, we have to pre-process the data set. So we have already gotten the data set from the Kaggle website. So Kaggle is a famous website which basically provides us with lots and lots of data set, a very useful data set. So this specific data set was already imported using read_CSV of method. So for pre-processing the data, the one specific thing which I have done here is I've converted the date column into date and time of Python, so that basically it is there as a string in the data set. So I've converted it into date and time so that plotting of the graph will be more accurate. And I've set the date as the index. So the date is basically taken as the index for each record, and the graph is plotted. As I told you all, candlestick pattern basically observes the stock for each specific date, and so for taking it for each specific date, it will be more easy for plotting if we keep date as the index value. So this is how the candlestick pattern for the data set, for the Bank of Baroda data set, is plotted. So as we can see, we have green and red candles. So this green one specifies that there is a profit, that is there is increase in the value of the stock by the end of the day, and these green values indicate that there's loss in the value of the stock at the end of the day. So once hover over that specific candlestick, we can observe all the values, that is the date and the time, the open value, the high value, the close value, and the low value. Each and everything can be observed easily. So what is the main use of this will be seen in the next slide. So let's have a quick demo. So this is a Jupyter notebook in which I have coded the candlestick pattern in Python. So firstly, I have installed Plotly. So this is basically, as I already told before, this is a library which is supported by Python and which is basically used to visualize data. I've imported all the three necessary libraries, and I've imported the data set in the variable df. So df basically contains a data set. So I've printed the df. So this is how the data set looks like. So we have already seen this in the slide. So this is a basic view of the data set. So these are the columns which is present in the data set. So most probably we'll be using the date, open, high, low, and close values for plotting this pattern. So before plotting it, we have to do the pre-processing. So in this, I've set the date to the date and time in which Python can recognize it, and I've set the date as the index. So as you can see, firstly, we had index number ranging from 0 to the last column, but here the date is set as the index. So this is the difference which we have made during the pre-processing step. So this is the next step in which we are going to plot the candlestick plot. So Go is a specific module which is inside the Plotly library, which we are going to use now. So we're going to plot this figure, and we're giving the data to be df.index of. So this specific, the x value is taken as the index, that is the date is taken as the x value, and the open value, high, low, and close value are taken from the each columns of the data set and is provided as the input, and the graph is plotted here. So after that, we are customizing the plot. That is, we can add the values for the x-axis, for the y-axis, and a title for the graph. So this is what we have done here. I've added the title to be Bank of Baroda Candlestick chart, and the x-axis to be date, and the y-axis to be price. So the last step is to save this specific plot as a file. So I've saved this as an HTML file so that we can embed this in our reports and all. It'll be more easy if we embed these as an HTML file. So at last we are displaying the plot. So this is how the Bank of Baroda candlestick chart looks like. So the major use of it is we can actually customize it, customize the graph, and look into large data set as in how we want. So as we can see, firstly, we had it for dates, that is for March 8th, March 10th, and March 12th. So we had it for dates. So when I want to, observe it more clearly, and I want to see for each and every day, not the alternative days, for each and every day, I can, so I have now March 13, 14, and 15. So when I even more reduce the distance, I can even view the values, how the values are affected even for the time. So as we can see, this is at 12 o'clock, this is at 6 o'clock in the evening, that is the closing time, and then this is at 12 o'clock. So we can view as in how we want to see the data. So this is the main use of the candlestick chart or candlestick plot. So let's now continue with the presentation. So to conclude with, I've given a short intro on the data set which I've used to plot the candlestick pattern, and I've given the introduction to candlestick patterns and how a single candlestick is observed, and how each and every value is plotted. Each and every value corresponding to that stock is plotted, and how I have used the Bank of Baroda data set and I've pre-processed it and I've plotted the candlestick pattern is what I've discussed in this presentation. So for reference, I've used three main things. The first one is the book, is a Python book, which I have used in my college. So it is known as Python for Finance. And then the tutorial which Real Python YouTube channel provides, that is how to plot a candlestick pattern in Python. I've seen that video. And then the documentation about the Pandas library. So these are the things which I have referred in order to come up with this presentation and to complete this task. So I've done with the presentation. If you all have any doubt, you can ask me now. Or this is my mail ID. You all can mail me if you all have any queries. Thank you.
Okay, so are you done with this presentation? Right?
Pardon, ma'am?
Am I audible to you now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so I'm asking that you are done with this presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can continue with your next presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
So hello again, everyone. So my second task was to plot trend lines based on a given data set. So the data set which was given to me was HDFC Bank CSV file. So this CSV file basically contains the stock market data of HDFC Bank. So I was given a task to plot the trend lines to analyze how this specific the values of that specific stock has gone through in the market. So let's now get into the presentation. So before starting with the presentation, let's now have a quick review on how the data set looks like. So this is similar to the data set which we have seen for the Bank of Baroda. So we have the index values here, the date column, the open, high, low, close, and the volume columns, which is very much similar to the data set which we saw in the last presentation. So this basically contains the date in which that specific record is observed, the open value, the close value, the highest value of that specific day, and the lowest value of that specific day, and the volume, that is the amount of data amount of stock which has been brought on that specific day. So this is how one record is generated. So we have this is a very huge data set, and we are going to use this data set in order to plot the trend lines to observe how how the values of the data set, how the values of the stock has gone through in the market. So this is how a trend plot looks like. So these are basically normal plotting techniques wherein we plot the prices with respect to the date in which it is date in which we observe the values. So we can see we have used the date as x-axis and the closing price as the y-axis, and we have plotted the graph of the HDFC Bank. So we have specifically taken the closing price alone here in order to view how the closing price has been in the span of. You can see there's a gap of 4 days between each of the values in the x-axis. So for a span of a month, how the closing price of HDFC Bank stock market price has been gone through over the time is what we analyze through this plotting technique. So this is again a plotting technique where we have used the opening price. So we have used both the high. So this plot basically contains the closing price alone, and this plot contains both high value and the low value for us to observe how the trend has been throughout that specific span of time. So what is it? So before getting into the trend lines and seeing the demo, let me give a short intro on what these plotting lines are all about. So these are basic lines, basic or normal line graphs or linear graphs, which basically represent one specific value with respect to date in order to analyze a trend or a pattern in which it follows or it falls into. So these are very useful when we use or when we work with stock market data. So the definition which is basically very similar to what I have said, and the methodology which we'll be using is we'll be using a step-by-step process. That is, we'll be taking the data set, we'll be pre-processing it, and then we'll be plotting the graph according to our needs in which we are going to observe it. So this is about the plotting trend lines. So why do we actually need to do this? There are two main benefits of it. So the first one is predicting the future price movements. So we can analyze the trend in which this specific stock falls into, and it will be more easy for us to predict the value or how these historical data will affect the new data or the future data. So we can actually predict the future prices of this specific stock, that is the HDFC Bank stock market stock, by analyzing these trend lines. So this is the main advantage of the plotting trend line analysis. So the next one is the informed investment decisions. So when we provide these visualizations and these trending graphs, trend lines into a AI or into a model, so if we feed the data into them, so it will be more easy for the AI to understand how easy for the AI to understand how the trend has been for a span of time, and it'll be more easy for us when we give reports on when we present our reports or when we do a specific task regarding stock market. All these lines will be very much useful for us to show the trends and the results which we have gotten from this specific analysis. So these are the benefits and uses of a trend line analysis. So let's now get into the demo. So this is a Jupyter notebook in which I have coded for plotting trend lines on HDFC Bank stock market data set. So firstly, I have imported Pandas library. So this library is again, as I already told before in the last presentation, this library is used to retrieve the data set into this specific Jupyter notebook. And then here I've used matplotlib. So in the previous presentation for plotting the candlestick pattern, I've used Plotly. We can actually use matplotlib library also, but I want to show the differentiation between these two, or I want to show the variation or different observation on both the libraries. So for that, I've used Plotly for that task, and I've used matplotlib for this task. So matplotlib is again a visualization tool or a library which is supported by Python. So as a first step, I am reading the data set here. I've given using the read underscore CSV of function, which is given by pandas library. So I've given the path of my data set as a input, as a parameter to this function. So this is the part where I've pre-processed the data. So I have converted the string. I've converted the string date column into date and time, which Python can recognize, and I've set that into the index value as we did already. So here I've plotted the graph. So in this graph, as I already told in the presentation, I've used the close value and I've labeled it as the closing price, and the color which we have given is blue. So these are called as the attributes which we mentioned inside the plot of method. So here PLT stands for the library, which is matplotlib.pyplot library, which is supported by Python for visualization. So the title which I've given is HDFC stock market price over time, and the label X label is date and the Y label is closing price. So this legend of is a method which basically shows that what line shows what price. So this value. I hope my cursor is visible. So this is called as legend. So this specific line of code makes this legend to be visible in our visualization, so that while we present or report to our higher officials, it will be more easy for them to analyze the data set based on the legends. So this is one type of plotting technique which we can do. And the other one is where we can compare by plotting two different lines in the same plot itself. So these are the two lines which we have selected, that is the high and low value. The high value is represented by the green and the low value is represented by red. So it is plotted here, and we can observe the trend and analyze how the stock market values has been through in this specific day, in this specific span of time. So this is the last plot which I have done. So this plot is basically a set of parallel lines which basically represents the uptrend and the downtrend. So this line which is nearly below 1700 is the average highest value, or the average highest value that this specific stock, that is the HDFC Bank stock, has gone through in this specific data set. And this is the lowest value which again this data set has gone through. So using these techniques, we can understand and analyze and observe the data set and the stock market prices more efficiently. So let's now continue the presentation. So to conclude with, let me give a quick recap on what we have done. So I've told about the file, that is the CSV file, the HDFC CSV file, which I've used here to plot the graph. And then I've given an introduction about the plotting of trend lines using Python, and the pre-processing techniques which has to be done before plotting the graph. And I've told about the matplotlib library, which is supported by Python. And then we have seen the live demo of how the code is run. So this is all about the conclusion and how to apply the specific analysis in a real-time data set. So for references, I've used two websites. The first one is Geeks for Geeks website, where I've read the blog about plotting a trend graph in Python. And then I've used the plotly.com website. So here I've used the matplotlib website, but my matplotlib library. But before using the matplotlib library, I went on with plotly. So I studied on it. So these are the reference which I've used. So I've done with the presentation. If you all have any queries, you can ask, or you can mail me also. Thank you.
Okay, so are you done with the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your presentation was quite good, and the most important thing, the flow that you maintained and explaining each and every point, that is a very good point. So according to me, all the aspects are covered, all the small points where I noticed that you explained each and everything. From your side, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, that's fine.
Okay, so I will provide you scores and feedback on your email.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, welcome. Okay, next we have Vikanta. You can start with your presentation.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening, Vikanta.
Actually, I am not done with the code. Just I have only PPT files.
Actually, you have not done with the code, but actually, technical part is important. Without the technical part, we cannot consider the completion of the task.
Okay.
So
Okay,
you
ma'am.
because the we have the scores for demonstration as well, na, in our criteria.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So is your deadline completed or still the deadline is there? Still, if it's not completed, so what you can do is you can complete your task and then give your presentation.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or any queries you want to ask, you can.
No, ma'am. No queries to ask, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes.
When can we send my another presentation, ma'am? My
So,
deadline is today.
no issues. If your deadline is still today, that you can give tomorrow, you can complete it today, or
Yes, ma'am.
you
I
can
will
complete.
complete it today. Today,
Okay,
ma'am.
fine. अगर नहीं भी हो पाता है देन ऑल्सो नो प्रॉब्लम यू गिव इट ऑन ट्यूसडे अगर जस्ट इन केस नहीं पॉसिबल हो पाता है बिकॉज बेसिकली आर मेन मोटिव इज कि वॉट एवर द टास्क इज गिवन टू यू यू शुड हैव अ गुड नॉलेज एंड गुड अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट यू आर डूइंग सो कोड इज नेसेसरी टेक्निकल
Yes,
पार्ट
ma'am.
इज है ना यू आर गेटिंग माय पॉइंट ओके
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
ओके
Thanks, ma'am.
वेलकम we don't have any more interns, but still we will wait for a few more minutes. If we will get any more interns, so we will continue with our session. Otherwise, we will wrap up our session. So we don't have any more interns, so we wrap up our session. Thank you so much, everyone.